Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today. We are going to be talking about the Warsaw Stock Exchange, GPW, the initiatives that it currently has underway, and looking into 2021 and the outlook for the Warsaw Exchange going forward. It is my great pleasure to welcome today to join us the Chief Executive of GPW, Marex Dietl, who will be talking us through those initiatives and the outlook for 2021. So welcome, Marek. Thank you very much for taking the time out to talk to us today.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for having me here today.
Okay. So the first question, I thought initially, Marek, we could talk about the exchange's strategy. Could you talk me through your current thinking around the strategy with regards to kind of emerging European markets?
Well, I would love to. We live our strategy. We updated it 2018, and we said, okay, we are much broader scope of clients than we thought before, and especially those potential clients. And one group of clients we have been not serving is the investors who are looking for exposure to the frontier markets. As Poland gradually was upgraded through emerging to advanced emerging to developed markets, we somehow missed some of our clients. And we decided to work on we call it Frontier Markets Board. So for those investors who are interested in the assets which are bearing country risk of frontier markets, being Ukraine, being Georgia, Armenia, and we are kind of Eastern Europe hub. We have on our venue, we have some Ukrainian companies, some Czech companies, different companies, but we would like to group those companies which come from frontier markets and offer this to the international investors community. So they will have a mix, exposure to the risk of the country, but quality of exchange and service of a developed market, capital market with the same clearing and so on. So this is one of our, as we call it, soft diversification project. So on the one hand, we use our core competence, what is offering a trading platform, a high quality trading platform, but a little bit of different flavors. So we pack to our shop new products.
Okay. Could you tell us a bit more about the Frontier Market Board? It sounds very interesting. I mean, so talk us through exactly sort of how it works and what it will mean for companies listed in countries like Ukraine and Georgia and Armenia.
Well, first of all, we started with we asked ourselves the question if the local capital markets in the frontier markets are serving the entrepreneurs in these regions, and the answer was partially yes, partially no. If the entrepreneur from frontier markets is growing very fast and he or she wants to raise extra money, he or she can do it either via local stock exchange, but the supply of capital is relatively limited, or they can go to London or New York, what is very expensive. And also the size of the companies for Polish standard or Armenia standards is quite nice, but for the London standards, it will be a relatively small cap company. So to gain the attention from the investors is pretty difficult. And many companies from our region experienced that they were local stars, but when they were confronted with the full competition from global companies, they somehow disappeared and the attention of the investor was lost. So, and we looked at, for example, Georgia and Armenia, and we found out that there are, in each of the countries, are 40 plus companies which are much better developed than the local capital markets, but are not that developed to go to London, for example. So we especially think about this type of companies. The role model is the company which is already listed on our venues. Kernels, Ukrainian company, agriculture company, which is performing very, very nicely and is a very good quality of governance, good IR, investor relations. But of course, it's exposed to all the risk related to being in Ukraine. It got a really nice attention from both local investors and global investors. And in our relatively smaller venue with less competitive venue in terms of number of large companies, they are much more visible than if they were in London or somewhere else. And also it's much cheaper to be listed in Warsaw than in London. So I think there is a sweet spot for those companies which are on the way to become very large companies, but in meantime they need some capital, and they can raise this capital on our venue, and they also can step by step build their reputation. On the other end, so this end, the first end is the issuers, and on the investors' end, we see that investors are telling the companies and telling us, okay, as long as the given company is listed on the, to use literally the word mainstream European Union venue, it's okay, because you have CCP, you have all the infrastructure, you have quite fairly advanced trading engine, we have a good access via remote members to you. So basically for us, it doesn't matter that much if it's a Frankfurt, London, Paris, or Warsaw. So if it's Warsaw is for most of the investors good enough to trade this frontier market companies.
And what opportunities are presented by your acquisition of the majority stake in the Armenian Securities Exchange? What does that mean for your group?
Well, it's we would like to use a unique opportunity, which is a window of opportunities like 10 years. We have still people on our team who were at the beginning of our stock exchange almost 30 years ago. So they still remember when we had 5 companies listed on our venue, and literally nobody was believing that you can build up the stock exchange in a country when the GDP per capita is around $8,000–9,000. So it was really, Poland was really underdeveloped countries with high foreign debt, with still double-digit inflation coming out of the hyperinflation. So everything was speaking against building up the stock exchange here. But somehow we succeed. We are now, according to FTSE Russell, developed market. And those people who were at the beginning, they will retire in 5–10 years from now. And so we have like another 5–10 years to transfer this experience, this hands-on experience, not from the books, but really hands-on experience from building exchange from almost point zero to the developed market. And the first reason why we decided to go for Armenia, we really believe we can help them build up their, especially their equity market. They have a debt market quite well developed, but they have only 13 companies listed on their equity market. Most of them are banks, and so we can really help them build up the local market. And I think that was the major reason why the Central Bank of Armenia decided for us, because we showed them that we have a team and competences to help them grow the market. And for our perspective, it's a very attractive option to buy a stock exchange at a very reasonable price, which is profitable. So basically you buy an asset which performs. And literally, in case of Armenia, there is unlimited growth potential due to the 2 factors. One is the famous Armenian entrepreneurial spirit. I saw the companies large startups which were invested by Sequoia Capital, for example, in Armenia. So they're really, Armenians are extremely entrepreneurial. And the second factor is Armenian diaspora. There are 3 million Armenians living in Armenia and 8 million abroad. And this makes the whole venture very attractive for us. From the other factors which are also somewhat meaningful for us is also cultural proximity. We have had in Poland relatively large Armenian minority in the 14th, 15th, 16th century. Even we had the Armenian University in the city, which is currently part of Ukraine, but was created by the Polish king. The name of the city is Lvov. And this is the only case in the history when the Armenian minority fully assimilated with the local population. So there is a piece of blood, Armenian blood, in every single Pole. So we can understand each other pretty well. So after over 1 year of negotiations, we are at the point where we sign a term sheet, and we are now working with BRD on finalizing the deal. And hopefully we can build up a financial center for Euro-Asia in Armenia. Armenia is very well positioned to become kind of Switzerland of the Eurasian region.
Okay, interesting. Could you tell us a bit about the 3 Cs initiative, which you are working on? I mean, I understand that the rationale behind it is to sort of promote investment by tackling some of the challenges faced by sort of smaller, sort of emerging, developing countries, challenges such as over-regulation and international competition. How does the 3 Cs initiative propose to sort of help develop, help boost those smaller economies?
Well, the 3 Cs initiative is in exchange terms, because it's a broad concept on the north-south axis, the cooperation of the countries between these 3 Cs. So it's the Baltic Sea, Adriatic Sea, and the Black Sea. But in exchange terms, it's the market in the 3 Cs region is extremely fragmented. So we have a lot of relatively small capital markets, where we as Warsaw Stock Exchange, we have 40 to 50% market share in equity trading and over 90% of derivatives trading. So we are by far the largest equity market proportionally to GDP and also in absolute numbers. I was illuminated by a discussion with a Hong Kong-based asset manager who told me, well, how can you convince me to invest in a country which is, he was meaning Poland, half of the size of the average Chinese province, and it's 15,000 kilometers away. He used exactly 10,000 miles away. So basically that's the issue in our region, that we are, even Poland, which is by far the largest capital markets, is not that appealing to the Asian investors or asset managers from generally other continents than Europe. And in order to make it more attractive, we should do marketing together. And we have requests from, for example, Japanese investment banks. So can you do, we can do a Polish day, but bring us not only Polish companies, but we'd like to see 2 or 3 also from Hungary. So, you know, it's absolutely natural for the Japanese investment bank that we have magic power to bring also the regional companies with us. And we would like to, instead of explaining the Japanese or Hong Kong or whatever Singapore investors that Poland, Hungary, Slovenia, and are all separate countries and so on, we'd like to present the region as together to the investors. That's the first reason for cooperation in Free Seas initiative. The second reason is also related to tech competition. We are even for us as a major, at the largest stock exchange in the region, it gets more and more difficult to keep up the speed of technological development of the larger exchanges. So we can cooperate also in technology development and some other aspects, core business aspects, to make our venues more attractive to the investors. And the third layer of cooperation is regulations. And the regulation in the European Union concerning capital markets are written by the large investment banks and, of course, inverted comma written, but strongly influenced, and large exchanges. And there is a struggle between those two groups who can keep more value added in our value chain, but but there are also some players in between. There are small and medium-sized exchanges, and we have to voice up our concerns about the MiFID II regime, about capital market union. And when we do it separately, Warsaw Stock Exchange, Budapest Stock Exchange, and so on, then it's very difficult to make this that the voice is heard. But if you do it together and we say we represent 13 exchanges and we see this and that, of course, the officials in Brussels are more willing to listen to us. And the concrete results of this cooperation is, for example, CE index. It's an index which is grouping 150 top companies from the region, but the Polish companies were limited there. So actually there's overrepresentation of the smaller markets. So you can effectively buy a macro story of the region, which is, by the way, very exciting. Since joining the European Union, all the countries in the Free Seas region were growing much faster than the rest of the European Union.